Okay, cool. We're live here on Facebook. We're live here on YouTube. Just getting everything set up. I'm in Vietnam at the moment, so connection is sort of an issue, but let's see if we got everything working. Looks like we're good on Facebook. And let's see, there's no viewers yet, which there usually should be. There we go. Now the viewers are coming in.
There are two of me.
What does that sound?
The person I am.
Not sure.
There we go. Okay, coming in from, that was me. Okay. All right, cool. We're live here. What's going on, everyone? As you can see, I am with a guest right now. His name is Alexander Heyne. And I just want to let you know, I am a fan of Alexander. You know, I have people on here I interview that I usually do for you guys and people that I know that I like, but like I not necessarily have dug too deep into their content to actually help myself out. But he is one where I've actually done that. And he talks a lot about life purpose, but he's an interesting guy because he's got a lot of different qualifications. He also talks about nutrition, which I do have a couple questions for you, which we'll go into towards the end. But we're talking today about life purpose and how it attracts women. And well, I'll kind of tell you right now, it does attract women when you have purpose, when you are on a path to doing something with your life. So there's the quick answer, but really the big question is, what is life purpose? It seems to be a term that's kind of thrown around a lot and seems to be just kind of like this, you know, new buzzword, but what is it about? Why is it important? And how do you reach that? And so we have Alexander today to be talking about that. So Alexander, is it Alex or Alexander? How should I refer to you?
Yeah, Alex is good.
Okay, cool, awesome. Just really quickly, let's get a test. I know I'm not using a mic, I'm using the computer, so can everyone hear me? Is there like a terrible echo? Everyone says hello. People are saying good morning, Vietnam. That's right. It is morning here. It's 11:10 a.m. I know it's like, in the States at least, it's like nighttime.
Yep.
Cool. I think it looks like we're sort of lagging here on Facebook, which is a shame. But what can we do for now? Oh, no, we're not. Looks like we're okay. All right. Everyone says hello. Really quickly, I like to show off to my guests, to just show off how far we reach. So everyone say really quickly where they are from, like where are you right now? And while you're doing that, Alexander, say hello and introduce yourself.
All right. What's up, guys? So I'm Alex. I'm the writer behind a couple sites. The original one is called milkthepigeon.com. Originally started for people lost in their trying to figure out purpose and work they love. I have a business over at Modern Health Monk. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name. And I'm based over here in Portland because I'm also doing a doctorate in Chinese medicine, but we will get into all that.
Awesome, cool. Really quickly, we got people from Louisiana, Boston, Singapore. Oh, I'm near there. Brazil, Kentucky, Vietnam. Oh, someone here is in Vietnam. Guantanamo Bay, is that real? Los Angeles, Puerto Rico, Bumblefuck, Pennsylvania, Florida, Alabama, Robert. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, that's great, man. I'm glad to have you here. As you can see, there's a lot of people. We got about 65 people watching right now, and I'm sure they're all interested in learning from you. So first off, how did you get into this? Like, and let's just specifically talk about the life purpose stuff. Like, how did you get into this? I mean, you have a whole site, you have a blog, you have a book that you sell. What is the book called, by the way?
Yeah, so this one is called Milk the Pigeon, a field guide for anyone lost in their 20s. Okay,
it is called Milk the Pigeon because I know I have one of your free guides, which is also called Milk the Pigeon, but I guess has a different sub-name to it. But either way.
So basically, so it started with that little manifesto, right? So in my early 20s, I was working at a job I wasn't super passionate about. And around the time, so I was a high school teacher, basically a teaching assistant in Rye, New York. And I realized that the work was good, the pay was good, but I'm heavily purpose-driven. So I am not very motivated by money. I really value experiences and cool stories and living a life worth living. Like, I want to be the friggin' Dos Equis guy, right? And so for me, doing this teaching assistant stuff, I was not going to become the Dos Equis guy. I was not going to have those cool stories to tell my grandkids or the woman I married or whoever. And so for me, what that meant was booking a one-way ticket to China. And at the time, I didn't speak any Chinese. I just took one semester of night classes while I was
Wait,
working.
I want to stop you right there. Why
Yeah.
did you book a one-way ticket to China?
All right. So as a kid, I had a strong childhood interest in meditation and mysticism and kung fu. Like I had, by the time I was 18, I had probably a 400 book library on meditation and meditation related topics. So I was like, and I was at the age 21, 22, where I was starting to forget about like the childhood callings. And I was like, you know what? As a kid, I always thought it would be cool to go like become this ultimate badass kung fu master, monk, sage, whatever. And yeah, totally normal, like completely normal dream. But I did what was abnormal, which was I was like, you know what? Why don't I just book the flight? And I figured that I was just going to stay there. I had no idea how long I'd stay. It was open-ended. So I booked a one-way ticket to China, and I went there to look for these kung fu masters. And I ended up training with the Tai Chi guy in the park. I was the only foreigner. He spoke no English. He loved to knock me unconscious and, and tweak my arm so bad I would get them x-rayed and all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Really? He knocked you unconscious?
He would, the fireman's throw where like the hand goes through the leg, it's judo throw. And you just kind of huck the person like that. Usually, I mean, I did judo for multiple years when I came back. Usually, you stop the person before you throw them, just out of common courtesy. This was out in the park on gravel. He would just huck me. He would just go. He clotheslined me once so bad that, my teeth would grind, my teeth just ground against each other, and I blacked out for a second. Yeah, he was a bodyguard for the Communist Party, formerly. So,
wow. So was this worth it?
Definitely. Definitely for a number of reasons. Number one, this was the real Kung Fu of China, like not the BS Tai Chi of the old people in the park. But number two, it also showed me that martial arts were not my life purpose or calling, because I was not intrinsically motivated to train 3 hours a day. I had to just like really push myself, and I wasn't getting the kind of satisfaction from wanting to get to the next level all the time. And I find that when work is that fulfilling, we're naturally motivated to a certain extent to do that.
Cool. I want to stop you right there. I want to go to the chat real quick, and I want to ask anyone in the chat, are you right now, do you feel your life is unfulfilling? So go ahead and tell us right now in the chat if you feel like right now either a part of your life, like a big part of your life, or everything in your life, and the things that you do from day to day are unfulfilling. Let's hear from you. I'm just curious to see kind of where we're at with that. Okay, let's go back to you, Alex.
So to build off of that, like what is life purpose thing. So before I found what I call like my work in life, it felt like I was always looking for something, right? That's the internal experience, was like, I'm looking, I'm over here, over there, I'm traveling, I'm bouncing around jobs. And time scared me because every year meant that was 1 year away from, one less year I had to do what I wanted to do with my life, right? One less year on earth, and it scared me and it produced anxiety. But afterwards, it felt more like I knew the path. Like before, it was like I'm looking for the path. And so there's a lot of anxiety, scarcity thinking. But after, it felt more like now I'm on the path I want and I'm pursuing something. And it's almost like I can't wait to age or get older to see how good it'll get or the opportunities that will present themselves. So for me, the idea of life purpose is just something that it's beyond all the kind of material stuff we talk about. It's beyond like your rent or money or esteem or ego, all this kind of stuff people talk about. And it's a deeper reason for wanting to do something.
Let me ask you this. What do you think about this idea? I've dabbled in a little bit of mindfulness and a little bit of Buddhism. And I know one of the principles of Buddhism is the idea that everything is perfect as it is right now, right? So that you're already on your path and purpose because, once you start seeking outside of that, you no longer become present. And so I think you kind of know a little bit about that because you say you were into meditation. So how does that fit into all of this? Like guys are like, oh, I want more, I want different. I'm sure if I go to the chat right now, I'll see some people saying that their life is unfulfilling.
Right.
However, what do you think about the idea of trying not to seek and just be okay with what is in the moment?
You know, I think if we were all sages, that would be the easiest thing, right? If we were all sages, we could sit in a prison cell and be happy and content. But I think the reality is that most of us are not. Um, and that level of self-cultivation is not easy, at least not for me. And so I think that we should always work on both the inside and the outside, right? Just like dating. It's exactly like a man trying to reinvent himself. And I actually reinvented myself too, and just purely for the aspects of dating as well, because I was very different 10 years ago. So just like with dating, you would improve your character, your personality, conversational skills, but also maybe your style or your physical fitness. I think for the same thing, the same reason, it would make sense to pursue the cultivation where I'm content, I'm happy, that feeling that I've already arrived, I don't have to run after anything. But also, like, if you hate your job, like, change the job. And so that's my, you know, if we were all sages, it would be pretty easy to just be content with everything. But why not do the self-cultivation? And also, if you don't like your job or your physical daily reality is unfulfilling, change it too.
Right. No, I like that. That's a good point. You know, I think that still there are external factors that have a big hold on us. You know, if someone really doesn't like their job, or they're really unhappy in a relationship, or they have friends that they don't really like, or they're not making enough money to survive, or they feel like unfulfilled because they just sit around and watch TV all day, or they feel like maybe part of their religion is making them feel anxious or scared all the time, right? So I'm just hitting all these different areas of life. It's like these are external factors that can weigh on us. And so I think what you're saying, Alex, is that it's okay to want to change things and to want to grow and to put yourself in a better situation, but all at the same time while still remaining present and grateful for at least what you have in the moment. But it's okay to want to grow and to evolve.
Totally. Totally. That's my philosophy for sure.
Cool. I like it. So let's get more into the meat of things. I think we did a nice little introduction here. Let's talk more about life purpose. I have my little text edit open here for all the questions I have for you. So let's start with this. What do you think life purpose is? Like, what is your definition of what life purpose is, and what does this really mean? Again, a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, but what is it all about?
So my definition of life purpose is, you know, people talk about the cliche, having a reason to get up in the morning. But for me, a life purpose is almost like that theme of Dharma. It's almost like a purpose that's deeper than it could be your work, right? A lot of us assume purpose with our work, whether it's charity or if it's some business or company you're building. But I think deeper than that, it's a singular focus you want to have your entire life revolve around. It's kind of like the nucleus of your life. So we find if you look at people historically, look at the sages of the past, look at like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, their purpose was singularly self-cultivation or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. And everything they did revolved around that nucleus, which was the relationships, the way they ate, the way they interacted with people, even the way they slept. I mean, this sleeping meditation in Chinese medicine is like even sleeping types of Qigong. And I think it's a singular, it doesn't have to be just one thing, but for me, it's a singular focus that really is the core of your life. And that could be something as simple as I'm going to deliver as much value to everyone I come into contact with. That could be a life purpose. For me, it happens to be in the realm of medicine. So it's going to be singularly around not only becoming the best I can in one lifetime, but also it's always in the service of my patients. Like there's just millions of sick people. And so if I can revolve my life around purpose, this life purpose, it produces a sense of fulfillment you can't get from anything, almost anything else, certainly nothing material. But it's a very different way to live when you feel like you're on purpose versus if you're not. You almost feel like everything's going to be okay. It naturally builds this feeling of faith where you feel like you have a purpose. And so I think it could be a person's work. It could be a calling outside of work. It could be just a principle they come up with. But I do think that to me is what purpose is.
Sure. I kind of want to even like go to its simplest form. I'm just going to say this. And if you, by the way, don't agree with me, I'm just saying things. I want to challenge things. If you don't agree, just let me know. But I just want to, as I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, okay, so purpose, like if I had to explain this to a 5-year-old, right, what would I say? I would say, okay, purpose is something that you're doing that makes you feel very happy. Is that it? Or am I missing something here? Is that too simple?
So it would be hard to explain to a kid because it's as a concept, it's probably as difficult to translate. But
well, okay, maybe not to a kid, but I think that's my way. If you ever go on Reddit, there's a whole subreddit called "Explain to Me Like I'm 5," which is people asking questions about difficult things, and then people explaining to them very simple. So that's kind of what I meant by it. Like, just like, what is the most simplest way to explain it so people understand? So what did you think about that definition? Go ahead.
So for me, most of the things that are meaningful and purposeful in the short run are not necessarily happy. So if you look at Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, he was in a concentration camp. And I don't remember if his entire family died or if his wife and his kids or whatever it was, but he described it as being one of the most meaningful experiences of his life. And meaning and purpose are often intertwined. But he himself was almost killed and starved to death. And so I don't think purpose necessarily is happiness in the short run. Hopefully it is. Like for me, I love Chinese medicine. I love medicine. I love doing the work. I love studying. I love seeing patients. But I think often purpose can come from suffering. And so purpose is a greater reason for doing something beyond, in the short run, the material, but it's something that often is bigger than oneself. That to me is a defining characteristic of purpose. So the mother in the ghetto that works 3 or 4 jobs to support her kids, and she has to sleep 4 hours a night, jobs she hates, she gains 60 pounds because she's so miserable and eating crap because she can't afford it. She would probably describe her life as meaningful on some level for her kids, purposeful, but she probably wouldn't describe it as really that happy. And so I think purpose is a greater reason that often has nothing to do with oneself. And that's what makes things purposeful or meaningful, is that they don't have to do with you. Like they don't have to do with me seeking fame or building this huge business, being a famous YouTuber in LA, or being a celebrity doctor. They have to do with what gives my life the most meaning and the most purpose is everything outside of me that I'm helping to improve. So I think that's the defining characteristic, is what you're doing for someone else or for some other cause greater than oneself, to use Viktor Frankl's terminology. But that does not necessarily benefit your own life directly. That's not the explicit intent.
Got it. So one thing I've always remembered that Tony Robbins has said, famous motivational speaker, is that he has his own little story of one time he like found the meaning of life. And it was like when he was like really sad and distraught driving in his car, and it just hit him. And then he pulled over and he realized one of the core ways to be happy and to feel fulfilled is by helping others. And so that is not something that's necessarily very intuitive, because as people, we're trying to get things for ourselves, right? We're trying to make money. We try to be happy by doing things for us. So we don't really intuitively think to do for others, but he has kind of found that. And as I work in this industry in terms of dating advice, in terms of guys, I'm starting to find that too, is that like there's a lot of good feeling that comes from helping others. So taking that concept, do you think that life purpose has to be something, in terms of defining it, has to be something that is helping others, or something that is greater than yourself?
I think it's probably the easiest way, the most direct path. Like it could be helping your own family, it could be helping your mom, your dad, your spouse, your kids. I think probably the fastest path to purpose is to do something for somebody else. But it could also just be a topic that makes you want to get up every day and cultivate yourself. Like you see this a lot in the savants of history: Einstein, Tesla, a lot of the painters, Manet, Monet, musicians, Beethoven, Mozart. A lot of them weren't necessarily revolving around providing value to other people, but there was just this. Earl Nightingale has this metaphor for like a great river you want to play in, this huge river, which is a topic of interest. And I think that often gives life purpose, that almost like that spiritual dharma sense of purpose.
Okay, cool. I like that. All right, so do you think women are attracted to a guy with purpose?
I think all people
What's
are
your
attracted.
experience with that?
Yeah, I think all people are attracted to people with purpose because it shows singleness of purpose, right? It shows clarity. It just shows leadership qualities and dominance, right? So it shows that this guy has figured all his stuff out. He's a leader. He knows exactly what he wants. And it's like when you go out to dinner and someone's like, oh, what do you want? Like, I don't know. What do you want? Like, I don't know. I like the pad thai or like all this. And it just gets annoying dealing with people that don't know what they want, even on such a simple level as like getting dinner. So when you're dealing with someone's life and they just like, you have a conversation like, it just feels like you're hanging around Eeyore. And so I think all people are attracted to a person with purpose. And especially, obviously, there's a lot of biological stuff behind men, leadership qualities, dominance, ambition that are attractive to women. But I think it shows dominance, it shows ambition because the guy wants something from life. And for women, that often signals security. It also shows quality because it's easier to sit on the damn couch and play Skyrim than it is to get up and do something, even for an hour, right? And 99% of people just do the metaphorical equivalent of Skyrim, just doing what's easy, coming home, Netflix, whatever. And I think it's a universal attraction. Like to be in the presence of someone that's such a strong leader in search of something or building something. Like that's why Napoleon was known as, I think it was like the 10,000 man, something like that, because he was such a powerful speaker. He could inspire an army of 10,000 to just their morale. And I think that it really only takes one person with singleness of purpose to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to butcher this. I don't know if I read this in Robert Cialdini's book or somewhere else, but the idea that people naturally want to be led. It's something kind of in us, so we want to be led, and that there is a lot of that leading quality in someone who is decisive and knows what they want and has purpose, right? So you see someone, doesn't matter if you're with a friend or a family member, or even if you're with a girl or girls with you, like the people that you surround yourself by who are like, oh, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm doing. There's something very attractive about that. We're attracted. It's like, oh, this person has these things kind of taken care of. And that's nice. It feels nice to be surrounded by those people. And I think it's really biological. And I really think you hit it on the head here, because what we're talking about here is a lot of masculine qualities. And that's how attraction gets triggered. When you're with someone who is feminine, when you're with a girl and she is in the presence of those masculine qualities, we're talking about decisiveness, ambition, drive, all things that seem to be what you're saying here, Alex, is this these core traits that make up or are displayed, I should say, when someone has life purpose. That's very attractive. Right. And a girl wants to be around that. I like that. Very cool. What do you think is the first step that someone can do when they feel lost in life? So a guy is watching right now, right? They're here on the chat and they're like, all right, like after I watch this, I'm going to go right back to life and, go eat Cheetos and watch TV or go to bed. And they might forget all about this very moment right now. So let's give them something that they can do. What's the first step they can do to walk away here so they can actually get something from this?
So I think there's two things. And the first thing that I would do is take one coffee meeting a week. So in my early 20s, when I got back from China, I was completely lost. I mean, I fell into a depression for 2 years. I was totally lost. I had no idea what I was passionate about. And so what I didn't know then that I know now is that we often have an idea of what we think we like, but when we do it, the daily reality is very different. So for example, a lot of people think they want to become doctors. When you talk to doctors, most of them hate it because they get like 3 minutes with a patient, they dish out the same BS pills, and then afterwards, there's no quality to their interaction. And if you have a 5-minute chat with a doctor, you'll realize, the day-to-day life sucks compared to what I thought. Or maybe you think you want to be an architect or a dating coach or a painter. So what I would suggest is to come up with just like the master list of everything you could possibly think of. And then set up over the next weeks, just email one person in each of those niches. So maybe you email a local art gallery looking for an artist intro, or a local architect, a local accountant, a YouTuber, all these different people. And I would just say, hey, I'm really interested in this topic, like architecture or being an author. Do you have 5 minutes where I could buy you a coffee and pick your brain? And surprisingly, what happens is most people that are passionate about their work are totally down for that. Even a lot of really successable people would make the time for that, or at least a 5-minute call. And so what I realized
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've done that before. There've been people in the past who've reached out who said like, hey, like I want to become a dating coach. I'm very interested in this field. Do you have time to talk? And they even say in the email, like, you're probably not going to even read this. And it's like, I'm just a dude. Like, I'll read it. I get my emails. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm very passionate about what I do. So would mean more than anything for me to sit down and talk about it with someone who's interested in it. But either way, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what I found. There's a lot of self-defeating beliefs that come up, like, why would they answer me? Blah blah blah. They're so busy. But I found that they often do. So one of the interests that I had was I was starting to realize maybe Chinese medicine was what I was passionate about. So I actually Googled 10 acupuncturists in Connecticut, where I was living, where my parents lived at the time. And I just called them all. And I was like, hey, what do you wish you knew going into this field? And in that one afternoon, I got the most valuable advice of my life, because they told me what it takes financially to succeed, what they wish they knew, where to set up a practice, all this kind of stuff. And so what you'll realize, if you take one coffee meeting a week, there are all these ideas you probably have, and you're like, I'm not sure, right? I don't know. Like, do I really want to be a dog walker, or like an au pair for the rest of my life, or a trainer, or work at this IT department? The more quickly you can test those ideas out by one coffee meeting a week, the faster you'll have that internal feeling of, I think I can see myself doing this. So the second thing is to strongly listen to your intuition. And you find this in all the histories of the classical masters of the past, whether they are like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, or the artists of the eras and the generations. And there's often a very subtle intuition, and it's easy to ignore because we hear it just like I heard it. Even as a kid, I knew I wanted to go into like integrative medicine, and yet I didn't, because people told me, is there any money in that field? And there, at that time, I did not have the self-confidence or the life experience to be like, screw you guys, I'm going to do it, because I believed them. And I was like, you know what? I guess not. Maybe I shouldn't do it. So I let myself get talked out of it. And I think if you can, number one, listen to the intuitions, validate them through these weekly coffee meetings with people you reach out to, and then keep going with your gut, a lot of progress is going to happen just in a few months or in a year. And the second thing is that you have to act. Like, it's not going to fall in your lap. For 2 years, I was sitting around my parents' house getting these odd jobs, and I was trying to like follow my intuition and manifest some dream gig, but I wasn't acting at all, right? I wasn't acting at all. I wasn't sending out the emails for the coffee meetings. I wasn't doing the day job search every single day. I wasn't going out to events at night. I just wasn't doing the work. And so what I find is that a lot in my own coaching experience, 99 times out of 100, the people just aren't doing the work on their own. And so if you can go with your intuition, take a coffee meeting a week, and act along the lines of your intuition, I think you're going to make a lot of progress.
Cool. I like a good answer there. I want to challenge this a little bit and say, what I heard from you is a lot about, it sounded like a lot of jobs, right? It said, like you said, look into all these different fields. But is life purpose all about, I think this is what you were saying earlier, it's not all about a job. So are there any other areas or people, or how would one go and search out purpose if it doesn't have to do with a career?
Yeah, well, I would say the first thing I would look to is anything that involves volunteering. So I think if you look at like the big bucket themes for people, they often describe purpose being in people and work. Like, I really just see that to be in probably 80 or 90% of the cases. And so if it's revolving around people, you could just as easily do the same thing. For example, my sister's passionate about wildlife rehab and animal shelters. So she volunteered at an animal shelter and adopted a pit bull. And that was one of the ways that she tried to figure that out. But I think the thing is to try to put them all in various buckets. So maybe you could have a work bucket, maybe you could have a contribution bucket, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's related to one of your family members. But I would say if you can break them into different buckets and then still use that same kind of philosophy, which maybe means volunteering once a week for an environmental type project, once a week for maybe helping kids out in a cancer center, once a week at a food shelter. If you can break it down like that, I think you can figure out, get a little bit of an intuition which path you want to go down more.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. And I was speaking to my girlfriend earlier about this. Actually, I was having her help me with questions for you, because I know that we talk a lot about life purpose and things like that. And then we got into the conversation about balance and how to balance your life when it comes to, well, you have this one mission, right? So like we're talking about life purpose is usually like this kind of one thing that you're really focused on or really into, whatever that thing is. But how do you balance out the rest of your life? How do you balance out the relationships that you're in? Relationships, I mean all relationships, not just with a lover, but with friends, family. Maybe how do you have hobbies associated with that? Or your religion, if you're very religious. Or, maybe like working out and staying healthy. Things like that. How do you balance all this with also having a life purpose? Is life purpose, does it mean that you have to just be doing that one thing and you got to give all your time to that since it is your life purpose? Or how does that all work together?
I think the most important thing is what I talk about a lot on Milk the Pigeon, which is kind of just designing your life consciously. So you asked the question, how do you live a purpose-driven life while finding balance? And my initial impression was, I don't know if it exists on one level. So I've got a caveat to that, a PS. So I think if you look at a lot of people who are absorbed in their life purpose, they don't exhibit a lot of balance. And I don't think that's on purpose. I think it's accidental because they're not thinking about the other aspects of their life. In my own life, recently, I've been pretty horrible at it, but I think you have to think about what's most important to you. So what works for me is I consciously think about exactly what I want from my life. And I have it, look at this, got it right here, right? Every single goal, I've got fun, career, health, relationship, spiritual growth, contribution. And on the back, some affirmations and my whole vision for this year, right?
I think you should say that again because I think guys might want to know all those different categories. So why don't you say it, and I'm going to type it in the chat here for the guys who are live. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got 6 categories here. I've got fun, I've got career, I've got health, relationships, spiritual, and then growth or contribution. So that usually revolves around what I'm doing for other people. I have my entire vision of what I'm trying to build this year, the 12 months of this year. I have the daily habits that are going to get me there. And in the back, I have some affirmations that are just related to changing the way I think about certain goals. And
damn,
so
that's awesome. Do you sell a little course on this or what? Is this all in your book? I feel like this is really practical, good stuff to have.
Yeah, so I do. I actually have a course called Your Best Year Goal Setting, which is based on this kind of reverse engineering approach. But this thing has allowed me to do, like, while I was doing my doctorate here, I finished another book, and it's just, I think it's about consciously directing your life. So in the absence of consciousness, what happens is people just become, it's like the successful dude that's fat and divorced. Like that was my biggest fear as a kid. I knew I wanted to be successful, but I had no interest in being the fat dude who didn't take care of his health, was miserable, and was divorced. I wanted to be the dude that was pursuing work that was his calling, he was passionate about, he was successful, he was fulfilled, he was with a freaking awesome girl that he eventually married, he was fit and healthy and happy and contributed and gave back. And so I think the problem is most people that are really successful, they've only focused on that metric, career success. So because, they didn't look at their life holistically like this every day, in the absence of that, we just do what's default, which is usually working a lot and then maybe going out a lot, I think, for the average person, or just hanging out and watching TV. So the big thing for me is be conscious and be deliberate. Number one, about the vision. But then number two, once you know the vision, you have to make sure that the days are aligned with the vision. So if I say, you're living in LA or New York City, you're saying you want a serious girlfriend, and yet the habits are not aligned with that. You're going out, you're working 14 hours a day, going out, getting hammered 5 times a week, not acting monogamous. The habits are not aligned with the vision. And so I think it's very important to have clarity on the vision in every aspect of life. And then from there, we'll reverse engineer that into daily habits. What do I have to do for my career to look the way I want? For fun to happen every weekend rather than work? For my health to have a 6-pack and to be healthy and sleep great? To have an awesome relationship with a girl that's fun and adventurous and likes to travel? To meditate every day so my stress is totally calm? And to spend one day doing something for other people? I think the most important thing is that holistic vision, and then making sure with some kind of accountability that that's actually happening at the daily level.
Okay, cool. So you're saying that no matter what, everything is comprised of habits.
Right.
Even if it's having fun. There's habits to having fun.
Totally. For me, that might be like scheduling one night where I go out a week. Because right now, with a doctorate and running a business, I'm working way more many hours than I'd like. And so what often happens is it's like Friday at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even connect with half my friends the past 2 days and figure out what we're doing. So if you think of everything as a habit, you can think, what do I have to do? For me, it may just mean pinging my 5 closest friends, shooting them a text, being like, hey, what are we doing on Friday? It may mean on Saturday afternoon, rather than going to a coffee shop to work or read a book, maybe I go to Eventbrite or meetup.com and look for events, or on Facebook events. What's going on in Portland? So that's, for me, the easiest way is to think about everything as habits. It could even meeting a girl could be, what are my habits? Maybe the habit is approach one girl a day, or go out once per week if I'm not going out. Same with fitness, same with career, same with spirituality.
So what do you think about this? I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm hearing about building habits. I'm hearing about these different areas of your life. What do you think about taking all these different areas that we talked about? You said 6 different areas. So what if you sat down and you wrote down, okay, all these different areas, which I wrote down here in the chat, which are fun, career, health, relationships, spiritual, and then growth, contribution. So what if you sat down with a piece of paper, you wrote all those out, and then you picked one habit, just one, not to overwhelm yourself, and picked one habit that would be a positive habit to contribute to that category, and then try to implement that weekly? Would you think that that is a good start?
It's basically what I do, man. Basically what I do, for sure. One habit is more than enough, and absolutely is a good place to start. And you know, at the start, maybe even just pick 3 of those categories that are not going well. You know, maybe it's career, health, and fun. Like maybe you know you're having fun, and it's like, I need to work on my career, my health, and I want to be in a serious relationship. So you figure out, what's the habit I need to do. Totally.
Yeah, I like that. So we'll take it even a step further. I'm going to piggyback up on what you said, is that maybe you don't have to overwhelm yourself. Maybe you're pretty good on most of those areas, but there's a few areas that are not doing so well. So what you could do, I actually wrote a whole newsletter about this like a month ago, is I outlined all these categories similar to what you had here. And then I said what you can do is you rate them 1 through 10, 10 being, I got this handled. You know, so we'll say, as an example here, let's just say health. Let's just say you have that handled. If you're already going to the gym a lot, you eat healthy, boom, you're like at a 9 or 10. Okay, let's say relationships. Well, that's maybe at like a 3 or 4, because you're not in one, you want one, you're not talking to any girls, and you're trying to get more dating advice, but something's not working. Maybe career. Maybe that's like, I like my career, I like what I'm doing, I like the industry I'm in, but I don't love the job I'm at. Okay, so that's like a 5 or 6. So I think what you're saying, Alex, is you know, kind of we can say grade those, see where you're at, and the ones that are falling behind the most. I'd say, to quantify, the ones that are maybe like 6 and lower should be the ones you should focus on first. And then, of course, if all of them are at 6 and lower, well, then you know, either you can focus on all of them, but if that's too much, we'll pick 3 that are most important to you right now, or having the most mental effect on you, that are causing the most stress, depression, or anxiety, and focus on those first. And then, like we said here, you know, use the skill of building a habit, find out one habit that you can do to build in that area, and then go from there.
For sure.
Cool. I love that. Awesome. We only have about like 15 minutes left. I'll ask you another question, and then I know there's still around 60 people here, so we can go into a Q&A for any questions you guys have for Alex, and we can go to that. So one other question I'll ask you, because I know that you're a rock star with nutrition and health, and I thought, like, well, if you also do that, let's get some advice from you in that area. So I guess, what is your biggest tip in terms of staying mentally healthy? So I know, again, I wanted to take this a little bit different. You know, there's a lot of information out there about what to eat to lose weight, to gain muscle, and all those things, but what is your biggest tip in terms of what to eat for nutrition so that your brain is on point? Because it's probably going to take that. If you're working on all this stuff and you're figuring out habits and you're figuring out goals, like, it's going to take some brain power here. So what's your advice in that arena?
I would say focus on protein and vegetables at each meal, right? I would focus on protein and vegetables. And I would also say, if you're already drinking coffee or you're taking stimulants, you don't really know your baseline mental state. If you don't even, like, you know what I'm saying? If you're waking up and you need to have a stimulant, try it without it for 1 week just to see where you are. You can go right back to 5 coffees a day after, but just to see your mental state. What I recommend as far as nutrition though is really unsexy, and it's following mostly a Mediterranean diet. So even in studies where people have cancer and they're recovering from cancer, they have crazy results when they have a Mediterranean diet. For weight loss, the Mediterranean diet consistently comes out on top, but that would be nutrition wise. So I would say focus on protein and veggies, and then fasting. A lot of people feel really good fasting, and maybe that indicates the state of our crappy digestion right now. But I find a lot of my clients work really well on a fasted state. So they're most productive when they're fasting. They don't feel heavy, they don't feel sluggish, and so on. I would say that's probably the unsexy advice for sure. There's no green juice, none of this stuff you hear, no supplements, no bulletproof coffee, none of this garbage. It's just really simple. The body's built by itself to function optimally. It doesn't need anything else. This is a very very Western concept, right? We need something else, just like we talked about with Buddhism. This other thing is going to make it better, but it's not often always true, right? The body we're an animal. It's designed to already be healthy at its most optimal as an animal.
So to sum that up, you're saying that since it's already optimal to do that, then just to what?
I would just focus on, for being mentally healthy as far as nutrition goes, I would focus on a Mediterranean diet. So if you can base your meals around meat and plants, and it's typically like whole grains or a rice, like a brown rice or something, generally that's what I would focus on. Don't get overcomplicated with diets and things like that.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. We're going to go to Q&A right now. So when we go to the chat, you guys can ask questions. Someone asked this question, which I'm going to answer right away. Someone said, what does this have to do with relationships? Okay, so I'll answer that.
Okay.
So we're talking about life purpose. We're getting into nutrition. I know we're getting off to topics that don't seem directly related to, okay, what do you say to a girl? How do you text her? How does attraction work? What do you say on a date? Where do you meet girls? But you have to understand that this is all very much a part of dating and relationships because it's about building yourself. And so in order to become the most attractive version that you could be, there are lots of things you need to do to work on yourself. And one of them we're talking about here is life purpose. And to be able to reach that point where you love your life and you have things going on, you do need to focus on the things that Alex is talking about, building habits, goals, and things like that. Because really, when a woman meets you for the first time and you guys are going on dates and things like that, and she sees that you have a life that you love, again, that can be anything. We're not telling you here what to do or what kind of job to do or what kind of goals or habits to have. But if you have something that you love and you feel fulfilled, well, that's going to make you happy. And generally, you're going to be a very happy, fun, outgoing person because you love your life. And people are really attracted to that. And there's a lot of people out there who are not doing that. So if you can start working on those things, it is going to help with attraction. But I want to say this too. You don't want to do this stuff to get girls to like you. That is the wrong way to go about it. I know this is a dating advice channel, and so I'm giving advice on how to get girls to like you, but this is some advice where you want to do this for you. Once you start doing it for someone else or for other people, it's actually not going to work. So you need to want to do it. I'm sure it shouldn't be that hard. You probably want to have a good life and an awesome life, so I'm sure you're going to want to do that, but more importantly, do it for you and not for anyone else. So that's what this has to do with in terms of relationship and dating advice.
And I think to build off that, there's a Jim Rohn quote that you attract success by the person you become. And nothing is truer than in dating, right? You attract, I mean, as men, we joke about like the 10, right? The dime, the 10 out of 10 woman at the bar. You attract the 10 by being the 10 yourself. And so what the big revelation was for me was, if I'm not attracting the caliber and quality of women I want, who do I have to become, right? I want a woman that's super fit, looks like a Victoria's Secret model. Am I that fit? I want the woman who's successful. Am I successful? I want the woman who's peppy, outgoing, great conversational skills. Am I that guy? I want the woman that's got stories and is interesting. Am I that person? Am I going after the things I'm passionate about? And it's almost like when you become that person, you naturally attract that caliber of woman because it's just the natural law. It's just that you have elevated your value in the world to everybody, but especially to women who are going to be much more attracted to that. So that exercise for me was magic. I mean, when I thought about, I want this girl, I want that, rather than that, I thought, okay, well, who do I have to be? What do I have to be to be my 10 out of 10? Where does my fitness have to be? What does my career have to look like? Even my income. Where would I have to be financially to be my 10 out of 10? Travels, stories, the quality of my character, how I act in relationships. That's a pretty big question.
Yeah, exactly. I agree 100% with all that stuff you're saying. If you want to get the so-called 10, you got to be a 10 yourself. So it's all about working on yourself. Someone said here in the chat, Luke said, yo, Trip, what if I need to switch my life purpose, but I don't really have an idea yet? So I know we kind of went over that before, but Alex, do you want to just kind of give a really quick summary answer for that?
Yeah, so it sounds like the person has another idea, or they know that maybe this thing is not their life purpose and there's something else out there. I would immediately go into that coffee meeting idea. Come up, just go sit down in a cafe, sit down with a coffee, put together a list of every conceivable idea from the most wacky to the most plausible and practical, and then just start talking to people. Shoot out one email a day to a person doing each one of those things. See if they'd be willing to sit down with you or chat on Skype or on the phone. And then you'll be like, you know what? I'm feeling that. I'm not feeling that. And then go in the direction that feels good. Cool.
Awesome. Anyone here on Facebook have anything to say? We got some people live here. I just want to see here. Any questions from Facebook, go ahead and ask them right now. I know there's some people live. Someone said here, I thought whole grains were bad for you.
Say that again?
I thought whole grains were bad for you.
So if you look at the longest lived people in the world, what's funny is that most of them have some kind of carb or whole grain. There's even people in Papua New Guinea who have like a 70 to 80% carb diet, and they outlive most people in the West, and they're like 50-year-old dudes ripped with six packs. So this idea that whole grains are bad is not really true. A lot of it is the processing that's done now, and a lot of the chemicals and the pesticides that have been put on it. So I think it's important not to think of what food group to eliminate, right? If you look at the Blue Zones research, you could punch it in on your own. Almost all of those cultures eat carbs, and a lot of them eat a lot of whole grains like in Europe. So I wouldn't be afraid of whole grains.
What's a Blue Zone?
So the Blue Zone are the regions of the world where people live to be over 100 in statistically unusual numbers. So they have a very high percentage of centenarians that live to 100. And this guy, Dan Buettner, I think is his name, went all around the world studying them and the key habits behind what they're doing. And surprisingly, only about half of them are related to diet and exercise. The other half are life purpose is one of them, actually. So you should check it out, dude. Life purpose is one. I think it's, if you type Blue Zones into Amazon, like the Japanese, he talks about a term ikigai, which is a life purpose, a reason for waking up in the morning. IKIGAI. So in the Blue Zones, yeah, a lot of it is revolved around people, life purpose, and community. Surprisingly, that predicts longevity more than their diet and exercise alone.
Oh, okay, very cool. I like that. Other questions here. Starting a business versus working for the man. Any thoughts there?
Do both. The way I started was I had a full-time job every day, 3 years, 3 months, and 11 days. I came home and worked on my business for 3 hours after a 10-hour day job. From 26 to 29, I would come home, start writing on my blog, building that business, studying the business skills. I would 10 hours the job, 1 hour in the gym, right to a cafe before I went home, 3 hours in the business. And I did it every damn day for 3 years before I could quit. So I would do both. Do it until, I mean, if you have the option right now to just start your business and you know what it would be and you're at home or your expenses are low, or you can go to Southeast Asia, do that. But if not, you got to do what the rest of us do and hustle. Do it with a full-time job or part-time job, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I like that. I know I'm a little biased here because I now work for myself, but also working for the man helps you really, really appreciate starting your own business. So, right. However, there is positives and negatives to both. You know, I know people who would never want to be an entrepreneur or want to start their own thing because there is security, I put quotes here because there's not really security in every job, but there's more security in the fact that they're getting a paycheck every week and it only matters on their performance, where when you're starting a business, it's more hustle because you don't just get a paycheck every week. It's really what you put in is what you get out. So yeah, but you're right. It is about experiencing both and seeing where you can go from there.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship is not for the faint of hearted. I mean, my best friend committed suicide over entrepreneurship. I've seen people have nervous breakdowns, go back to getting jobs. Like I've seen everything in between. So it's, it is a different mentality, but obviously I chose the same thing. So it's definitely worth it.
Right. Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. So anyone who's still here, we got about 60 people watching. I want you to say thank you to Alex here, Alex Heyne, and Alexander. Where can people find you?
Yeah, if you're interested in more of like the life purpose, personal development type stuff, you can go over to milkthepigeon.com. I also have a fitness channel on YouTube. It's called Modern Health Monk. It's like fitness, habits, and self-mastery, personal development, all kind of fused in one. So those are the best ways to reach out to me, but you can shoot me an email on any of those spots.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, guys, check him out. I obviously highly endorse him. And as you can see, he's got great information. So hopefully you can take some of the stuff that he said today and put it into practice. Go check him out. People are saying thanks. Rodolfo says, where can I buy the book?
You can go onto Amazon and type Milk the Pigeon. That's where you'll see all that stuff. There's an audiobook too if you want me whispering seductively in your ear late at night.
Very nice. So yeah, guys, Milk the Pigeon. Check it out on Amazon or milkthepigeon.com. Hashem says, thank you, guys. John says, thanks. Begin Onek says, thanks. Very cool. So everyone's thinking. Awesome. Sweet. Cool, man. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this. Everyone on Facebook who are still here, thanks for being here. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, buddy.
Totally.